Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Hannibal Lecter, and Elvis Presley. Wait, what? You might not see Elvis as a very scary guy. I mean, I can't imagine Michael Myers shaking his hips like him. But when the Colonel, Elvis's longtime manager, was pulling the strings, the Elvis business was one of the most brutal in the entire music industry. Nobody had the guts to stand up to them and live to tell the tale. That is, except for one man, Jerry Reed. You might know Jerry from Eastbound and Down, or Smokey and the Bandit. Now Jerry Reed seems like a laid-back guy, so how did he take on the biggest star in the world and the most vicious businessman in the music biz? Kinda like the devil went down to Georgia. One man stood up to a demon with only his guitar as a weapon and won.
Well, the devil went down to Georgia. He was looking for a soul to steal. He was in a bind because he's way behind and he was willing to make a deal.
So come on and let's take a look at the secret life of Elvis Presley. Who secretly wrote all of his material? Which A-list celebrities hated the guy? Our team at What Happened has spent a lot of time researching the topic, writing the script, voicing said script, and editing all that into something we sure hope you enjoy. And if you do, please give this video a thumbs up, it really helps. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any content like this. But now get ready and get comfortable, because we're gonna find out. What happened? Elvis was weird. Today, Elvis is up there with, I don't know, Abe Lincoln as far as American icons go. But the real life Elvis is very different than the myth. So, who really made his music? What were some of his most bizarre habits? And who wanted to destroy him? Let's find out. Elvis beautifully recorded more than 600 songs over his career. And how many of those did he write? Show me the board. Yep, none. It's not exactly a secret that the king was famous for his voice and his hips more than his pen. Still, it might come as a surprise to some that he never, ever wrote a single song. Elvis never even learned how to read music for that matter. What he could do though was play. The king of rock and roll could pick up just about anything by ear. Not everything though. There was one song that Elvis just couldn't get down. And that is, Are You Lonesome Tonight?
When I kissed you and called you sweetheart.
There's roughly about 10 recorded performances of that song, and most of them end in Elvis breaking. Some people hint at a deep psychological reason. There's the laughing break, there's the crying break. I don't know, maybe he really was lonesome. Because, by all accounts, Elvis was a very weird dude. Even when he had all the money in the world, he ate like somebody who hadn't had a sandwich in decades. In just one sitting, the king could wolf down 8 cheeseburgers, 2 BLTs, and 3 milkshakes. At Graceland, his cooks were on call 24 hours a day. Elvis was so serious that he brought his own spoon, knife, and fork every time he went to a restaurant. I mean, yeah, I know people bring their own bowling balls to bowling alleys, but this is a bit much. Elvis seemed to take everything a bit too far. He was also a very big reader, and I'm not talking about beach reads either. His big interests were religion and mysticism. So, who put him onto the subject? A priest, maybe, a medium, or a monk? Well, no, not quite. It was his hairdresser, Larry Geller. Elvis Presley was also very superstitious. He would go miles out of his way to avoid a black cat crossing the road in front of him. And he also made sure to dress himself in the exact same order. First the right sleeve and then the right pant leg, right sock and right shoe. When the right was done, he would move to the left. His cousin once said, quote, Elvis was superstitious to the point of being suspicious of anyone who wasn't superstitious. And as a weird cherry on top, he owned a chimpanzee named Scatter. Sure, you've had weird roommates in the past, but I don't think any of those had Scatter. And it's safe to say that not everybody liked Elvis and his quirks. In fact, some people actually hated him. Who hated Elvis? Today, you can find Elvis on t-shirts, music boxes, and restaurants. But it's easy to forget that not everybody liked Elvis. In fact, a lot of people downright hated the guy. And I'm not just talking about the uptight parents who were shocked to see those hips moving like they did, following their shock with angry letters to the papers. There is quite an impressive list of people who wanted the head of the king. Irving Berlin. Even if you haven't heard his name, which I'm sure you have, you've definitely heard his songs. Cheek to Cheek, God Bless America,
God bless America.
and They Say It's Wonderful, just a few of the songs that Berlin wrote. But his most famous might be the holiday classic White Christmas.
Dreaming of a white Christmas.
That was most notably covered by, you guessed it, Elvis Presley.
Dreaming of a white Christmas.
But Irving didn't exactly love the groovy version of his tender ode to snow. He called it a profane parody and demanded that it be banned from the radio. Fortunately for us and Christmas, just about everybody ignored the guy. Marlon Brando. If there's anybody that can compete with Elvis for the luckiest with the ladies prize, it might be Marlon Brando.
It's hard to stay looking fresh in hot weather. Why, I haven't washed or even powdered. Here you are.
Elvis happened to be a big fan of the movie star too, but Marlon didn't exactly think very much of his competitor. In fact, he had these harsh words to say about Elvis after Elvis died. Brando said, quote, "It seems to me hilarious that our government put the face of Elvis Presley on a postage stamp after he died from an OD of drugs. His fans don't mention that because they don't want to give up their myths." The FBI. Like I said earlier, it wasn't just parents who were worried about Elvis influencing the culture. Yep, in fact, the government, under the control of J. Edgar Hoover, had over 600 pages about Elvis in their files. But as much as they tried to dethrone the king, nobody ever did. It would eventually be his own personal struggles that would lead to his doom. But while he was at the height of his powers, just about nobody successfully stood up against Elvis and his empire and then won. That is, almost nobody. There is one man who fought the king and lived to tell the tale, and that guy was Jerry Reed. Jerry Reed versus Elvis and the Colonel. Jerry Reed is known for three things: his wicked picking,
Well, now I got a car that's mine alone to me and the finance company on.
his movie star friendships from films like Smokey and the Bandit, and being one of the most overall laid-back musicians in the biz. So how and why did such a chill guy take on Elvis and the Colonel? Jerry Reed was born in Atlanta and spent most of his youth in orphanages and foster homes. By the time he was a teen, he dropped out of high school and quickly made a name for himself as a crack guitarist at honky-tonks and clubs across Atlanta. Jerry had a very special way of playing the guitar called the claw, named after the way his right hand looked when he was getting down. And after years of pretty much struggling, he had a hit with Guitar Man in 1967.
Hoping I can make myself $1 making music on my guitar.
One of the many people who heard Guitar Man was Elvis Presley, and he loved it. So much so that he wanted to record it. I mean, when Elvis wants to record your song, that's what he did. He assembled a team of session musicians at the studio to put the classic Elvis stamp on the tune. But there was one big problem. Nobody could actually figure out how to play it. That's right, some of the best pickers in the world, and even Elvis himself, who was known for his sharp ear, none of them could get the riff right. There was only one thing to do: find Jerry Reed. So where was good old Jerry? Well, he was out fishing on the Cumberland River. They rushed him over to the studio, still dripping in his fishing clothes. Elvis explained they just couldn't figure out that darned riff. and they needed Jerry's help with his trademark claw to play it. Jerry and Elvis hit it off immediately. That is, until the business parts came up. You see, the Colonel, Elvis's manager, knew how powerful Elvis was in the business, and the guy took as much advantage of that as he could. So he had a typical deal. If Elvis recorded the song, the original artist had to sign over half the rights. But it was a tough thing to say no to. An Elvis cover could make a career, but it was an extremely high cost. Unfortunately, you just didn't say no to the king. The Colonel's reps realized they had to inform Jerry about what he was getting into, so they gathered the papers and pulled Jerry aside for a quick little chat. It was either sell your soul to the Colonel or walk. The fallout. Despite his rural appearance, Jerry was no dummy. He knew that Elvis and his team of guitar heroes had been getting nowhere fast all day long. And better than anybody else, Jerry knew that only he could play those lightning-quick guitar riffs. And so the simple country boy kinda did the unimaginable. He refused the king. Reportedly, you could hear a pin drop in the room. You didn't, I repeat, you did not say no to the king, never mind the Colonel. Who did this Jerry Reed think he was? This could have been the quickest way to get chased out of Nashville, but the gamble worked. The Colonel backed down. Jerry sat down and revealed the magic behind Guitar Man, and RCA released the record. It became a hit for both Jerry and for Elvis. Now Elvis was kind of impressed by Jerry's skills and gumption, and so he invited him back to be the Guitar Man on some more of his recordings. Elvis even played more of Jerry's originals, including a thing called Love.
You were the kind of man to gamble on luck, look you in the eye and never back up. But I saw him.
Jerry Reed, by standing up to the Colonel, he got to keep all of those publishing royalties for Guitar Man. Yeah, quite the chunk of change. And he also got something else from the Guitar Man recording session. Inspiration for a new hit song called Tupelo, Mississippi Flash.
He said, son, my name is Beauregard Rippey. I come to you from Tupelo, Mississippi.
Which was inspired by his deal with the devil. Years later, when Elvis's fame and empire began to crumble, hidden truths came out about he and the Colonel. But there was ever only one man who stood up to them at the height of their power and won, and that guy was Jerry Reed. So whose version of Guitar Man do you prefer, Jerry Reed or Elvis? Is Guitar Man Jerry Reed's best song? If not, what is? And what is your favorite Elvis track? Are you a fan of Elvis, or do you find him a bit creepy and a bit weird? Get in the comments and tell us all things Jerry Reed and all things Elvis Presley. If you enjoyed the video, which we sure hope you did, please hit that thumbs up icon to show your support. Subscribe to the channel and come back often so we can keep telling you what happened?